Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Lighthouse Sessions. I'm excited. I have my near and dear friend Daniel Hall with me today. A special shout out to Paul Banks and Daniel Hammond for bringing these two crazy guys together. So, Daniel, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
I am a tech wizard. I've been writing software since I was 8 years old, so 50 plus years now. And if if it ain't broke, I will definitely break it. And when I'm not geeking out, my wife and I are adopted parents of 6 remarkable young children.
I love the family first, and for anybody who's watching, that's why Dan and I are friends here because when people talk badly about their family, it tells me everything I need to know about them as a human. So, Dan, I think you and I nerded out about family before I don't think we've talked much about software, which is a rabbit hole I think we could both go down. Is that fair?
Yeah, yeah, we can go down that rabbit hole.
So I will be connecting you with a couple of people on the family side. I think that's a very important thing. Um, what I will say, and I want your opinion on this, I used to think it was my job to raise my kids and teach them. And the biggest win for me was realizing how much they can teach us.
Yeah.
I'm guessing you've learned a lot from your kids.
Oh, most definitely, most definitely. They taught me two big things. One is leadership, and that is not in order to be a really good leader, you have to learn to follow. And with our children, being able to understand their trauma was one of the biggest assets for me in order to be able to be a dad, be a leader for them, to push them ahead in life. That was one of the biggest wins for me in learning from them. And secondly, you take that and you translate that into tech. And now you're finding out that, hey, a lot of the brilliant techs out there are either maybe on the spectrum, neurodiverse. We just have a completely different way of seeing the world. And through their eyes, our children's eyes, I've been able to see the world quite differently.
I love that. And yeah, I'm going to share something that is funny in hindsight, but when I was about 12 years old, I had a real knack for coding. And I had a teacher who introduced me the term spaghetti code like it was a bad thing. And it was fascinating because I was taught that coding had to be, this is back in the basic days where, line 100, 101, whatever. And my brain didn't work that way. And I went, oh, I guess I'm not good with computers. And I've ignored that signal most of my life until AI came around and I went, wait a minute, I'm actually good at this.
There you go. There you go.
And, it's funny because the guy who didn't think he was good at computers, a long time ago, I wiped all my hard drives to get rid of everything Microsoft and I went 100% Linux. And people are like, oh, that's what the nerds use. And I'm like, oh, okay. So let's talk about your journey because I feel like you and I would have been very nerdy friends swapping floppy disks or whatever back in the day. What sort of things do you build and what are you seeing now?
Well, when I was 8 years old, I would bring home these great big, huge reams of green bar paper with all the different code that I had printed out back in the day. It was Digital Equipment Corporation and these printers, no monitors. And my mom would sit there bored off her ass, Jeff, and she would just cheerlead for me. Well, I grew up in foster care, so I didn't have that encouragement prior to the Halls taking me in. So that was the catalyst for my career. And then I became a Microsoft junkie. I know you went down the path of like GW Basic and all those with the 8086 processors and the
Yeah.
8-inch floppies and the 3.5-inch floppies. And for me, it was Windows all the way up until about 10 years ago when I learned I could run a Mac and run Linux on a Windows system. I was just fascinated. They call them Hackintoshes, or you could virtualize those machines. And
Yeah.
now it's like I find Linux fascinating and the Mac OS fascinating. But during my 8-year-old venture and now almost 60, my career has been filled with just developing Windows-based enterprise-grade applications, from UI applications to web applications, to even helping companies like Boeing and Airbus and the ATA build these systems where we could calculate mean time between failure on parts on a plane. So, I mean, I could go as granular as you want, but definitely nerded out there for a little bit. I appreciate it.
Love it. And one day you and I will go line by line through some code. But what I heard in all of that was the data side of it, because
Yep.
I'm going to be blunt. There are people who are good at coding, and there are people who are good at analyzing data, and yet here you are. You build the code to reveal the data.
Yep.
And I think that's a rare gift, and I can suddenly instantly see why you and Mr. Hammond are buddies, because he sees between the raindrops, and I think you do too. So I'm going to ask what's burning on my brain right now, because I'd love your actual opinion. The word vibe coding, or the phrase, makes my skin crawl.
No, not even going there. Simple reason
We'll
for
go
that.
there and we'll come back together.
Simple reason for that. It's built on top of old technology that's not secure.
Well, the key to vibe coding, and what I'm watching the benchmarks, and AI is getting good. I think the last benchmark was 95% accuracy at creating code that works, but still stuck somewhere around 40 something percent at code that's secure.
Yeah.
Now, this is where my brain goes, because I did a little research, and on the dark web, you can buy common security leaks that are created by the different AI models. So these people have studied the gaps, and now they're sharing it. So when you're building enterprise, how do you protect your enterprises? And again, don't give me the details, but just what are you thinking to protect them from the vibe coding?
No, we're gonna switch back. It's all about protecting the data. Period.
Yeah.
Your vibe code has a front end that you need to be able to lock down, access into your back end. I mean, part of that security is making sure that you have those measures in place that I don't think vibe coding is going to give you. The vibe coding is great for UI, great for data manipulation, but it's not going to be great at saying, I want to block these few places from getting access to my back end.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's my whole philosophy behind that is, UI is great, but you have to be able to make sure that you're using tools like Postman or Fiddler or some other tools that are going to allow you to make sure you have a secure backend.
I love that. And I'm going to let you in on something that gives me nightmares. I'm not political. This is not a political statement, but I live in Alberta, and our tech minister, he keeps bragging about what he got rid of his tech team, and his shorter, smaller team. They've been using Claude Code and their vibe coding tools to run our province. And I am just sitting there going, we just had a massive data breach, and it's like, this is just the first.
Yeah.
And the scary part is he's like, I'm a big boy, and he's taking it to our leaders in Ottawa and saying, you guys should use my tools. And I'm like, wow, that can't possibly end badly for our country.
Yeah. 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 You got to make sure that the front door and the back door are locked.
Yep.
That's the easiest analogy.
Yep.
And make sure you have your alarm system on.
Well, one thing I find, I have a friend who works in finance, and one of her less tech savvy coworkers has requested permission to use Claude and Claudebot behind the server. And they asked me for my opinion, and I said, well, why don't you just burn the building down now and save the trouble?
I've got a different answer to that.
Oh, I want to hear that.
So my different answer to that is everybody's talking about Claude, OpenAI, and DeepSeek, and everything else in between. What you don't hear a lot of people talking about is private AI, and building private systems. So instead of using Claudes, using private Hugging Face models that are going to operate like Claude and like OpenAI and like Anthropic, but it's going to keep your data private and not share your context or your queries out with the world for other people to garner. And the other thing that people don't talk about when it comes to AI is, and they don't realize that AI has been around for 7.5 decades.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've all used it, either through Google or through bulletin board systems back in the day.
Yeah.
Or it's just somebody wanted to put a cool acronym, artificial intelligence, in front of it, so people would understand, hey, we're talking about automated processes.
Yeah.
And it seems to, over the time, it seems to have morphed into artificial ignorance. Different form of AI.
Still AI.
Yeah, it's still AI, but I mean, it's good. It's great if you know what the heck is going on under the hood.
Yeah.
And that's the key thing. Yeah.
Funny, because I see public AI as the modern day flea circus. It's a hell of a show. It's got a great marketing spin, but there's so many irresponsible gaps. And
you're still going to get bitten.
Yeah. And for what it's worth, I look at the original, what was it? Claudebot, Claw, something. Like, that guy went through so many iterations, and then now people are using it as the industry standard, and it's like you're building houses on a shifting sand. Now let's talk about private AI, because that happens to be where my weird obsession is. So you can laugh at me, because I laughed my butt off when I figured it out. I didn't quite comprehend the heating, cooling requirements of AI. So I actually built a working private LLM on this thing.
Cool.
And it sits here to remind me, never do that again.
Linux?
It is Linux based. I ran it for all of 5 minutes, and
Raspberry? What's the size of the drive?
This is a 64 gig drive. It's just
so you can do better than Raspberry on there.
Yeah. This was, so I was sitting here going, what's that smell? And I realized that my motherboard was starting to melt. So I was like, holy crap. Gosh. And I pulled this out, and I burnt my fingertips off.
Wow.
And that was the day I went, I can do this. Doesn't mean I should. So this is my reminder. Weird thing, but micro SDs, way better. So, and yes, I have built one on a Pi. I tried to build one on my phone, but it kept overheating, and the battery just go whoop. So
the one thing I've loved about private AI is the work Google has done with these turbo quant
Yeah.
models, and being able to take something that required a GPU and now can optimally run in CPU mode, which with public AI, you don't know where that's going,
Yeah.
what data warehouses are being utilized. But with the private and the turbo quant models, you can, and people don't talk about RAG or vector embedding
Yeah.
at all.
Now, for the
And
record, I built my own RAG, and then Google came out with Notebook LM, and I went, "Why did I bother?"
yeah, yeah. So it's I don't think society or the world still has a grasp of what AI really is, where it's come from, and where it's going. Because AI is great for, the public stuff, but people still don't understand when they try to bring that in-house to an enterprise organization, they have to somehow now marry that AI with their back-end systems. And that's where those cost budget overruns occur, because they have no clue what they're getting themselves into. So,
Well, and I have a feeling, and I want your thought on this, but I'm going to guess that a lot of the tech people, they know what they know based on the system that they know. And now AI is stretching them in directions they're not comfortable in. Are you seeing that?
and it's not for me. I don't see it. But I see developers getting scared,
Yep.
about, what's going to happen. And I do have an answer for that is, Google it. I mean, you've been Googling it as a developer for how many years now?
Yeah.
Instead of Googling it, you're still Googling it, going into AI mode and saying, all right, I've got this query. Give me the SQL code for Postgres. Give me the SQL code for MySQL. And as long as you're learning something from that,
Yep.
you're learning. People, I mean, there's organizations that don't want that AI piece inside of their organization. But it doesn't mean you still can't utilize AI to part of being that separates the professionals from the experts is knowing where to go to find the answer.
Yep.
A professional would sit there and say, I gotta figure this out. 2 weeks later, I figured it out. Yeah, I'm gonna figure out the same thing in 10 minutes.
Yep.
I'm gonna patch this code together that I found because I already know how to lock that code down, because that's knowledge that you have gained as being a developer and working with enterprise grade applications. So I think developers are getting scared because they think the jobs are going to get taken away from them, because somebody can go in and just go into AI mode and say, write me a piece of code for this.
Yeah.
Well, that's all well and good, but do you understand what's going on with that code?
And honestly, I think that's the skill set that people are not appreciating.
Yeah.
Is the knowledge of what it should look like, but also I think, to your expert opinion, experts take things apart as well as build them.
Yeah.
Whereas I think professionals, they build it and they're worried about, does this look good? Does it feel right? Whereas an expert's like, it's going to fail here.
Yes. Yeah.
And
And I
that.
love code generators. Absolutely love code generators.
Yeah.
As long as I know what it's generating. And I can go line by line and saying, yep, it's doing this here, it's doing this here. We're reaching out to the database, but this piece of code is not locked down. And we need to do something about that. So it's a good starting point, but you still have that, what AI is not going to have, which is the knowledge of your travels.
Yep.
It's only as good as what it's trained on. It has no idea what you know or don't know.
Well, it's funny because I just realized that some of my favorite tech people, I had a friend for years, he refused to put the lid on his computer And I was like, why do you do that? And he said, because it's so annoying having to take the lid off every time I swap a hard drive. And I went, oh, I can do that. And all of a sudden, my box disappeared. I think it's knowing what the things can do, and which things we don't touch when it's hot.
Yep.
And some of us we're stubborn. We need that experience of, oh, that's hot.
Yeah, and that's an interesting term, hot, because hot to the touch, or hot that it's in progress or working and it's currently writing information, because that's why they make hot swappable
Yep.
equipment, hard drives. So you can take one out while one is writing, if you have a RAID configuration. So interesting that you use the term hot.
Well, I believe hot also applies to a live wire, because I've discovered that too.
Oh, absolutely. I understand what you're talking about there. Yes. Unplug and yeah.
If you haven't zapped yourself, I don't trust you.
Yeah, I'm trying to teach our 15-year-old, how to do something simple like swap out memory. Because I grew up, in writing code in that same time space. I was, building machines, building computers, Windows-based computers, but putting in memory, hard drives, and static electricity is not, it's still the same today, but stuff is usually pretty well guarded against that when you're talking about a PC that you get that's less than like 5 years old.
I once took over a business, and I was in heaven because I found all these old computers. This was in about 2012, and I found one. It had, I think it was Windows Millennium Edition.
Oh goodness!
It was. I can't remember
Windows 98.
Yep. And I couldn't get the Windows to work, but I put a light Linux on, and all of a sudden, and it was useless for anything other than to say I brought it to life.
Yeah.
Once it booted up, I was like, okay, we can recycle this now. But I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting that how Windows NT came to play. If you look at what was it? VMS. Microsoft bought that entire stack, and they shifted the letters one in the alphabet. So VMS became WNT.
Oh, is that the
Windows NT? And they built it on that VMS operating system.
From that lasted forever.
Yeah. Yeah.
How many legacy system, or how much legacy do you see from Windows NT? Because that was a beast of burden for years.
I mean, it's still Windows NT under the hood.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still, you're building stuff on top of Windows NT, whether it's drivers or what have you. But it's still prevalent as the baseline.
I love that, because I think we think of tech as evolving, but you think about it, it's kind of like an archaeological dig in London. You dig down enough, you're going to find Roman legions, and there's a bunch of history under there. And I actually worked with a company that spent 2 years creating something, only to realize that the thing they created, it was a web-based application, wouldn't run on Web 3.0, so they had to scrap 2 years of coding and start over.
Wow.
That was a bit of a mea culpa moment when they had to stand in front of the shareholders and go, sorry.
Yeah, now you can run Windows Presentation Foundation applications on your mobile device. Yeah, using Avalonia, I believe. There's a version of Avalonia. It's not free though. That it will turn your Linux or your Mac. It'll give it the ability to run WPF applications on those OSs. So it's kind of fascinating how technology has come.
I love it. You and I are going to have more of these conversations. I will wrap up here, so we be mindful of your time. But I want to thank you for hanging out with me, Dan, and sharing your nerdiness. I love it.
I love it too. Thank you so much, Jeff, for taking time out of your life to spend it with me.